Most of us just think of breathing as this totally passive, automatic reflex, right? Just something happening in the background while we go about our day. But what if we've completely misunderstood it? Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're not just looking at standard health advice. We're actually going to reveal the hidden operating system governing human life. We're going to explore how the breath is, quite literally, a highly advanced biological interface. It's the master control panel that dictates your sleep, your energy, your emotions, and even your rate of aging.
Now, I know it sounds a bit like science fiction. I mean, what if the shape of your face, the rhythm of your brainwaves, and your ability to process fear were all controlled by a single unconscious habit? But here's the thing. Every symptom is a clue, and every habit is a signal. The central mystery we are decoding today is how the simple route of the air entering your body, specifically through your nose versus your mouth, secretly dictates the entire trajectory of your physical and mental performance. It's this massive interconnected system where one seemingly minor mechanical choice alters literally everything, right down to your facial bone structure and the electrical firing of your memory networks.
To really get this, we have to look at the stark dichotomy between our two respiratory pathways. Think of nasal breathing as the body's rest and repair operating system. It filters, it warms, and it humidifies the air, actively engaging our parasympathetic nervous system. It's the ultimate chill-out signal. On the flip side, mouth breathing, that acts as a fight or flight emergency override. It pulls in cold, unfiltered air, acting as a massive physiological stressor that throws you right into sympathetic dominance. So what's actually happening on a chemical level?
Okay, let's dive into this. To understand this divergence, we have to zoom way down to the microscopic level. You see, the nose doesn't just act as a filter. It's practically a chemical manufacturing plant. When you breathe through your nose, you stimulate the production of this absolute miracle molecule called nitric oxide, or NO, right in your paranasal sinuses. This gas acts as a potent aerocrine messenger. And the craziest part? If you breathe through your mouth, you bypass this hidden mechanism completely. You are literally depriving your lungs of this crucial molecule with every single breath.
So let's look at the deeper mechanism beneath that. When nitric oxide from the nose is drawn down into the alveoli of your lungs, it kicks off a localized vasodilatory cascade. And without getting totally bogged down in the heavy chemistry here, it basically binds to specific enzymes that ultimately reduce calcium in the smooth muscle cells of your blood vessels. The consequence? It literally forces your pulmonary blood vessels and airways to relax and widen, perfectly optimizing the pathway for oxygen transfer. And this brilliantly illustrates the real-world impact of that microscopic cascade. Because of the added resistance of the nasal airway, combined with that massive influx of nitric oxide opening up your blood vessels, nasal breathing results in 10 to 20% more oxygen actually reaching your blood compared to mouth breathing. Let that sink in. You are literally achieving the exact same metabolic work with less effort just by shutting your mouth. How incredible is that?
But hold on, because the breath doesn't just alter our blood chemistry, it actually alters the electrical grid of our brains. As air rushes through the nasal cavity, it exerts physical pressure on specialized mechanoreceptors. This sheer mechanical force generates rhythmic electrical signals, these ultra-slow human-frequency brainwaves called respiratory-coupled oscillations. So you are mechanically generating brain waves simply by the act of pulling air through your nose. It's like flipping a switch in your head.
And these aren't just random brain waves either. High-resolution EEG studies revealed that natural nasal breathing acts as a metronome, synchronizing electrical activity across three deeply integrated structures. You've got the piriform cortex, which handles smell, the amygdala, which handles threat detection and emotion, and the hippocampus, which is the absolute critical center for memory consolidation. The physical act of inhaling through the nose literally binds these areas together in this beautiful, phase-locked harmony.
This dynamic is perfectly captured by a groundbreaking study from Northwestern University. They note that, and this is absolutely fascinating, when you breathe in, you are stimulating neurons in the olfactory cortex, amygdala, and hippocampus. In a panic state, your breathing rhythm becomes faster to dangerous stimuli. Think about what that means. This is a beautifully designed evolutionary adaptation. Rapid nasal breathing during a dangerous situation maximizes the time you spend inhaling, which keeps your brain in a hyper-alert state so you can react to threats instantly. This creates a stark neurological contrast. The researchers found that during nasal inhalation, healthy participants could identify fearful faces faster and retrieve visual memories with far higher precision.
But when participants were asked to divert their breathing to their mouths, that vital neural synchrony just collapsed. The cognitive advantages disappeared, those crucial alpha and theta resting rhythms were suppressed, and it led to states correlating with executive dysfunction and memory challenges. You're basically short-circuiting the system.
So, we've seen how the breath controls our chemistry and our brainwaves. But what about our actual physical structure? This brings us to a larger pattern, a huge mystery just waiting to be decoded. How does bypassing a microscopic nasal filter, a completely soft breath of air, actually have the power to reconstruct the hard bone of a growing human skull? It sounds impossible, right?
Well, we have to treat these physical symptoms as clues. In children, when nasal breathing is compromised and chronic mouth breathing takes over, the functional harmony of the face is actually lost. The visible evidence of this corrupted operating system includes what's known as adenoid facies, which is a longer, narrower facial structure, a high arched palate, crowded teeth, and an increased lower facial height. That means a narrow jaw or crooked teeth aren't always just bad genetics, they are very often the architectural consequence of poor breathing habits.
Let's look closely at the deeper structural mechanism at play here. In order to breathe through the mouth, the jaw obviously has to drop, and the tongue rests low instead of supporting the roof of the mouth. This causes the upper and lower jaws to actually rotate backward and downward. But as the airway naturally narrows from this rotation, the body is forced into a compensatory forward head posture just to keep the windpipe open. The body literally distorts its own posture and spine just to survive an upper airway obstruction.
Okay, let's pull back for a second and look at the ultimate systemic master lever of our biology, the Bohr effect. This is a physiological law that presents a truly fascinating biological paradox. To get more oxygen into your brain and tissues, you actually need more carbon dioxide in your blood. I know, it sounds backward, but carbon dioxide is not just a waste gas. It is the vital key that unlocks oxygen from your hemoglobin, allowing it to actually enter your cells.
So, the crucial point is how our breathing route manipulates this law. Mouth breathing is basically chronic low-grade hyperventilation. It blows off way too much CO2, which lowers your blood's acidity. And because of the Bohr effect, your hemoglobin ends up holding on to oxygen way too tightly, practically starving your brain and tissues. Nasal breathing, however, slows the breath down, retains the perfect amount of CO2, and forces the hemoglobin to release its oxygen, literally flooding your brain and muscles with energy.
Which brings us to an invisible consequence that most people never see. If you're constantly waking up exhausted, anxious, or plagued by brain fog, you might just assume it's psychological stress or even a character flaw. But when we investigate the underlying biology, we see this isn't a psychological flaw at all. It's a mechanical failure. Habitual nighttime mouth breathing causes fragmented sleep, nervous system stress, and mild cerebral desaturation. You are, quite literally, waking up oxygen deprived.
Correcting this brings us to the absolute mechanical genius of the diaphragm. Drawing air against the small resistance of those nasal passages requires greater negative intrathoracic pressure. This physical effort pulls the diaphragm much deeper into the abdomen, which perfectly stabilizes the spine and core. Crucially, this slow, deep diaphragmatic action, especially on an extended exhale, stimulates the vagus nerve, directly commanding the heart to slow down and shifting the entire body into parasympathetic dominance.
So how do we actually fix a corrupted system? Well, we need an operating manual. Enter the Buteyko method, which is a clinical breathing retraining technique backed by extensive medical research. The entire goal of this method is to transition individuals back to light, slow, and deep nasal breathing. By consciously reducing your breathing volume, practitioners aim to reverse that chronic hyperventilation, build up CO2 tolerance, and restore the body's natural, healthy biological baseline.
And this brilliantly illustrates the true power of taking back control. Multiple randomized controlled trials on the Buteyko method show absolutely astonishing results. In asthma patients, control improved from 40 to 75%, with participants reducing their use of inhaler medications by anywhere from 20 to 50%. Furthermore, the trial showed significant reductions in standardized anxiety scores. It's rigorous, peer-reviewed data proving that conscious breath control can, in some cases, profoundly alter our need for pharmaceutical interventions.
If you want to start hacking this system right now today, the sources outline specific exercises like alternate nostril breathing to reset your autonomic nervous system. It's super simple. You sit upright, resting your tongue on the roof of your mouth. Close your right nostril and inhale deeply through the left. Then switch, exhaling through the right. Then inhale right, switch, and exhale left. The hidden implication here?
Finishing your cycle by exhaling on the left nostril specifically targets and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, instantly cooling down your stress response.
We've seen that sleep influences our brain, mechanics influence our anatomy, and breathing influences our entire lifespan. So if the simple route of a breath of air can physically distort your facial structure, dictate your emotional resilience, synchronize your memory, and flood your cells with oxygen, what happens to your human potential when you finally realize you've had the biological remote control in your hands this entire time? Thank you for exploring the hidden science of the breath with us in this explainer. Keep questioning, keep discovering, and keep breathing.